Hey you guys, and welcome to Dishing It with Dani, where we're serving up more than just talk. Today, for all of you music lovers, we have an interesting conversation. We have 3 gospel artists here in studio talking about the controversial topic of the crossover. So when we get back, we'll jump straight into it. Stay tuned.
You cannot charge a dead man. No. Officer, you cannot charge a dead man. He done dead and hear what I say, officer, you cannot charge a dead man. No. Officer, you cannot charge a dead man. I know the man you're looking for, but it's not me, of this I'm sure. I know from very young that he broke the law. I know his sinful mind and his wicked heart. He tried his best, but still was wrong. He couldn't save himself because his flesh was strong. I look like him, I do admit, but I saw him die, I have the death certificate. Officer, you cannot charge a dead man. Officer, you cannot charge a dead man. He done dead and hear what I say, officer, you cannot charge a dead man. No. Officer, you cannot charge a dead man. It's very hard to keep the law against everything you said, you did and thought. And someone must pay for every crime, and the penalty is death, not even time. I know that every man is born guilty, but I'm an innocent man, so it's not me. So officer, you did not get it right. Check your case files, you made an oversight. Officer, you cannot charge a dead man. Officer, you cannot charge a dead man. He done dead and no. Officer, you cannot charge a dead man. No. Officer, you cannot charge a dead man. You false accuser, I know your name. You crooked cop devil, yeah, I know your game. You set men up to do the crime, then entrap them and condemn them to fatal fines. But check my records now, my slate is clean. My Jesus paid the price, I have no history. I died once and lived twice, and the life I live now is not mine but Christ. Officer, you cannot charge a dead man. No. Hear what I say, officer, you cannot charge a dead man. No. Officer, you cannot charge a dead man. No. You can get from out of my face now. Don't come back here no more.
Hi everyone, and welcome back. We're ready to jump into talking about the crossover, which is transitioning from gospel to secular in the music arena. And here in studio today we have 3 local and international artists, all of you incredibly talented: Gozzy, Jaicko Lawrence, and Shane Forrester. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having
me.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
How's everyone doing?
We're good. Good. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Fabulous.
Who's ready to dish? Okay, but before we start, just tell me a little bit about yourselves. Gozzy, can I start with you?
Yeah, I'm a Christian artist. I don't want to call myself a gospel artist because I believe what my music, when I sing my music, it should represent who I am. So I'm a Christian artist, and I've been doing mainly reggae for a good couple of years, but I've been singing from a very young boy in church. And it's really good. It's a really great journey so far.
Fantastic. How about you, Jaicko?
Jaicko Lawrence. I'm a singer, songwriter, producer, and similar to what Gozzy said, I just like to consider myself as someone that's been, granted the gift of music, and I just use it to glorify God the best way that I know how. So, to simply put it.
Yeah, all of what they said. Basically the same here. I'm an artist, but I'm a Christian, and whatever comes out of my mouth or whatever I write must represent my values. And once it lines up with my values, I'm good to go.
Guys, thank you so much for being here. We know it's going to be a super interesting conversation. And we want to really jump in by asking you guys this main one. When you think about crossover, what comes to mind? Shane, would you mind starting for us?
I don't mind. As a Christian artist, or when you call me a Christian, I would think of it as me doing a mainstream record, which is like if I'm accustomed singing about Jesus or singing about things that worship, I would have done a love song, right? Or something that is more mainstream. Instead of it playing on Life 97.5 or 90.1 FM, I would seek to create a record that will play on 98.1 or Mix 96 or another radio station that is more mainstream. So crossover to me is that.
Jaicko, you have any thoughts?
When I think of crossover in, as it relates to music, I think it's something that can be accepted in maybe more than one setting. For instance, as Shane mentioned, on Christian stations. In secular music, that term is also used very frequently in terms of having two different genres of music infused to each other and it being able to reach a wide platform.
Definitely dictionary definition with you, Jaicko. When you check it online, it's definitely that definition you gave. So how about you, Gozzy?
In terms of gospel music, or religious music, if you want to call it that, I want to get on the other stations, and I look at 98.1, 95.3, and they play a lot of reggae music that talks about Jehovah or Jah or whatever, which is religious music, is Rastafarian religious music that is seen as secular music. And my argument is, if they're singing about their God in that way, what is wrong with me singing about my God and calling the name of Jesus? And I think the opposition comes when they realize you are talking about Jesus Christ, and when you're talking about God, not even talking about uplifting yourself, not even talking about encouragement or even love. I think the opposition comes when they recognize that you represent Jesus Christ, and that is where you will have those challenges, and that's where a lot of people in their minds, where the crossover occurs, where Jesus is no longer Lord of your music, where he's no longer dictating your direction. So I would say I would look at it in that way, because my music, I have no problem, my music getting on 98.1, going on reggae on the hill, because I'm doing the same thing that all these guys are doing, singing about my relationship with my God.
Well, Gozzy, you shared on your interest in getting the music out in the streets. And we have our guy, a good friend of ours, militant in the streets of Barbados, sharing the perspective of the everyday Bajan and what they think about gospel music, the local gospel music industry. Do they know any gospel songs? That was an interesting question that came up. And we're going to see all of that footage right now, going to Militant in the Streets.
Hi, and we are live here in the streets, Militant in the Streets, and we have here live in Lufer Shop, and we are going to get the opinion of 50 and our boy here, Yank, in the building. And the first question is to you, you ever heard about a thing called gospel music?
Yeah.
And when you hear the term gospel music, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
God.
God. Anything else?
Not really.
So let me ask the question, can you give me one gospel song?
This train is a holy train.
Can you sing that for me?
Not right now.
That's okay. So, for instance, when you hear the term about a lot of gospel artists singing on what people call secular beats or worldly beats, that is not, they did not necessarily come from God, but there's a beat you hear. Like, for instance, I know you're a Bound to Killer man because we grew up doing Bound to Killer together. But if you hear a gospel artist singing on that same Bound to Killer beat, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Nothing really. Same thing. Same. All his music, Dwight. All his music.
Good. So let me answer this question. And if you are, suppose you are somewhere jonesing, and you hear this Born to Kill a beat, and you don't know from the time you hear it, you beating off your gun fingers in the ear, but then you hear gospel music. How you going to differentiate between what is what? He's laughing. He doesn't even know. He's laughing. Perhaps we can go to some of the other guys and get back to 50. I see someone here. He's a music man, won't fear. When you hear gospel music, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Well, music is music, but it don't know gospel music is it's all about lyrics. It's any music. You can sing a song can play with the same beat, but it's all about lyrics.
It's true. So what do you think about gospel artists singing or going over to what we call the secular? Let me put it this way. You have a guy, say like me, that I came off of the block from down here, and then I going over to sing gospel music. Maybe that's okay. But what if I leave the church and then saying I'm going to sing this type of music in the world? What do you think about that?
You sing the type of music and gospel music like we talking about? Yeah. And nothing wrong with that. It will get the youths in the Soviet because that's the music now that the youths in touch with. But as they tell, it's all about the lyrics. Bad boy lyrics, I'm not going to pull the gun, but when you hear gospel lyrics, there's different vibes.
So let me ask you the same question I asked 50 just now. Suppose like you know a Sizzler song, and when that Sizzler song come on, the first thing you're going to do is roll, right? But then you hear somebody singing gospel music on that. Will you band that out and say, well, these Christians should come original, or do you think that it's okay for them to ride a beat? It doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter. It's the way again the youths. If that's the way, you get the youths show that kind of music. But it's all about the lyrics, as they tell you.
It's live in Hyperzone. Guys at home, what is your views when you hear the term gospel music? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Christianity.
Christianity. And what should gospel music sound like?
Anything as long as it brings the people to God.
Once it's bringing the people to God. So if I'm singing a gospel song on a Buju Banton beat, but Buju Banton is not necessarily bringing the people to Jesus, but he's doing it to Selassie, but I'm singing on that same beat, would you think it would confuse individuals?
Nah, it just be bringing more people to God. That's the way. Anything to bring people to God.
So it's okay then for me to go right on the hill, and then when they hear that beat, they may think it's Buju Banton come on, but yet they see me singing on the Buju Banton beat. So it's okay then?
Nothing wrong with that.
So once the message is the same, then you think then the medium is not a problem?
Nah.
What do you think about gospel artists singing on a non-Jesus beat, or what we call a secular beat, a Sizzler beat, a Bounty Killer beat, or a Buju Banton beat? Do you think it carries the same Jesus message?
Yeah, man, of course. A rhythm ain't nothing. It's just a rhythm. It don't matter. The God carries the same sort of message. The real thing where the song is power.
So let me ask you this question. Suppose if you said to me a rhythm is nothing, but suppose I hear a rhythm and before the words come on, the first thing I used to do is either start to grind something or beat off my shorts, but it's only the rhythm I'm hearing. Isn't that something? Because if I'm singing gospel music and you hear if you can't grind good and you can't sleep sweet, but that's not how it goes. But for television, we're going to put that in. And now I'm singing gospel on that rhythm. Do you think you're going to remember the words I sing or the words that was actually sang on that song?
It all depends on what you're thinking, man. What you're looking for. If you listen to gospel, listen to gospel. But you know what I mean? People can, the average man can think about that song. Because people like that song. Real thing.
So is it a dangerous thing, or is it dangerous or it could be safe?
Man, you can go both ways. Some people can like it and some people can like it. That's just the way our life is. It is what it is.
So do you think that once a gospel artist, you should always remain a gospel artist?
Yes, it's true. Yes. Yes.
And don't go over singing something else besides gospel?
Exactly like Lady Saul. She was going to dance hall. I know she big up in the church. That is not right. But the Lord said don't judge nobody, right?
It's right because she make a change.
I didn't hear that.
I say it's right because she make a change.
So she made a good change. Good. What about you? What about you, Mama Greta? Is it right she make a change?
Yes, she would make a good change.
Can you name two or actually one gospel song?
That's your song.
When Jesus say yes, nobody can say?
That one song I know right now called Look That One Right, that one rough.
Rough. Yeah. What about giving up is not an option?
I never heard one yet.
By Jose Hines, it plays on the television a lot. Giving up is not an option. It's not an option.
You sound good singing it though.
It's true. I'm gonna probably try to sing some more. So let me ask you a question. What do you think about gospel artists leaving the church and going and singing what they call secular music? You think that is right?
It might not be right in we eyes, but for people, if you want more money and fame.
So as a gospel artist, you think it's about fame or it's about God? Because you told me gospel.
God. It's about God.
So then going back then is wrong if you think only about yourself?
Yeah. Because I want to think about yourself alone. Can't work out. You want to think about others around you. But besides that, people want fame. People want to be recognized out there in the world. I mean, things different now.
We have it live here upon the Hyperzona. We have Gig.
Yeah.
And also we have
Alan
live, and we have the men in the back just kicking it. And let me just go ahead and ask you a question. You have ever heard the term gospel music before?
Yes.
And when you hear gospel music, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Father Lord Jesus.
Father Lord Jesus. Can you name one gospel song?
God is an awesome God.
And what about you, Alan? No gospel songs, but you have heard the term gospel music before?
Yeah, of course.
Where have you heard the term gospel music before?
In church.
In church? You grew up in the church as well?
Yeah, we Seventh-day Adventist.
That's good. 7 days Adventist right here on the block. And today is not the Sabbath as yet, so he's not rested. Yeah? So for instance then, when you hear gospel music, God is an awesome God, what do you think then about gospel artists that leave like the block or the ghetto and go in to sing for Jesus? What's your opinion on that?
Man, you feel good for a man that going in that sort of thing, man.
And what about you, Alan? What do you think about that?
I have full respect for a man like that.
Full respect for a man like that. And then let me ask this last question to you guys. What about then a gospel artist leaving the church and going outside of the church and say he's going to sing in his own thing?
It's good. It's good.
It's good in what way?
It's good in Father Lord way.
Any reason why? Let me ask Alan, what's your opinion on that?
I can't comment.
No comment. You think but do you think it's good as well?
Well, it's every man to his own order. That's the truth. If a man decide to go out and do a thing, I guess he just want to make money, whatever the case may be. But if he still got a pure heart, well, he's a good man.
Can you tell me a Carter rhythm or Carter beat?
Boxing their rhythm, man.
Boxing their rhythm. So if I was a gospel artist, you know the boxing their rhythm. When you hear the boxing their rhythm, you're ready to bop, and beat off the shots. But then you hear me, the Christian, singing on a boxing their rhythm. What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Might get large off and beat shots in the ear too. Pop, same here.
And you have heard it live from Gig, also known as Topek and Allen. And this is Militant in the Streets. Keep tuning, guys. We love you.
Grab somebody and tell them hello. Pure happiness where we connect to flow. Smile and cheer because that is we flow. Grab somebody and tell them hello. With your hands in the air, hands in the air, hands in the air, hands in the air. This is how we flow. Yeah. Grab somebody and tell them this is how we flow. Pure happiness where we connect to flow.
So we're back, and you guys just saw what the locals thought about this whole topic of crossover. And you guys know it's pretty interesting, those perspectives that came out. You know, it's like music is this way, you know, and you should focus more on the lyrics. So you guys, this is shooting from the hip kind of questions here. No, we want dollars and cents about what it takes financially to make music and produce music in Barbados. You know, Jaicko, you said you're a singer, songwriter, producer. Can you tell us about the production side of music?
I often make reference to the sport of being able, like, to production and stuff, to having a car, because there's always a new thing to get, you know, there's always the latest plug-in, the latest microphone, the latest speakers, so it can get really expensive. In terms of the production side of it, what I've kind of done to I have a studio here in Barbados that, you know, myself and Shane, and as with my father as well, we have a company called the Sky Movement Studio, and, you know, we're pretty much open for business. to kind of, use, the idea is to use whatever you have, whatever you've been given to kind of generate some sort of income. So because of the cost that it takes to keep it running, we tend to try to use it to do like, different, we invite other artists to come in and, put down their projects and stuff like that. So we're very much, into doing that. I do production for other artists here as well, internationally. So I'm very much open to using my gift to, reach whatever, sources of income I can,
But you ain't get down to dollars and cents.
Dollars and
You're not
cents?
asking the right question.
Oh, man.
What's the right question, Dee?
Is it more profitable to be a secular artist, Shane, than to be a Christian artist or an artist who sings gospel?
Yes, it is from a monetary perspective at times, because the reality is that the secular artist can go into clubs and raise your hands, lift up, take off your shirt, and get some money. It is from that perspective, but this is a cross we carry. The reality is that being a gospel artist is a cost you must pay. There's a price to pay, right? But there you gotta be smart too. There are ways of making money in gospel as well, that you can capitalize on. You can go into merchandising. You can't just think about music as just music. You have to think about all the stem off of your music, because the reality is that even the secular artists do that. They don't just have records out there. They have merchandise. They have colognes. They have T-shirts. They have, different things that are going on. So artists too in the kingdom have to begin to think like that too as well. It is a business at the end of the day too. And it's a kingdom business. It's run differently, different values, different motivation, right? Because the reality is that the motive behind it is different. It's the disciple. It's eventually bring that person to a saving knowledge of who Jesus is. And Jesus has no problem with that, because he had a treasury, all right? And he had an accountant, right? So we got to get comfortable too with that aspect of the business side of gospel music and the business side of music in general. As a Christian artist, that's the reality of it. It costs to make CDs, it does. The average cost of a production for the average artist is going to run you $2,500 to $3,500, right? That's for good production, right? Mastering is another cost. Getting the record mix, average $400 to $500 per record. So think about it. Think you're doing a 12-track album. You're looking at average to mix the record. If you're going this is the normal route. There are other ways you can cut costs. But I'm telling you, for the person who's coming into the business, who wants to make records, that don't know to make records like Jaicko, who can do everything, right? Because Jaicko can go in the studio and he can do everything. I can go in the studio and do everything for myself, right? But for the artists who don't have that, right, they're looking at cost. They're looking at $2,500, $1,500 per record, and then on top of that, they have to look for money to mix the record and master the record. Then if they're gonna go now and get the CDs pressed and all of that, that's a different cost, right? They maybe do it locally here, or they may do it via CD Baby or some international company. That's a separate cost. Then imagery. All right, they have to get photos taken. If they're gonna go to Joe Brooks or somebody, right? Don't call me names. Joe Brooks, just did, or somebody up there, right? That is really good, right? That's gonna be a cost to that. Then clothing, because they have to think image and clothes, and they have to present themselves properly. So all that's a cost. So it turns out to be quite a very, very expensive process.
So we're looking at this thing getting up to like easily $10,000. $10,000? Tell us, Gozzy, you're telling us earlier about your image and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah. My album probably ranged anywhere between $25,000 to probably $35,000, considering everything that Shane mentioned, and it doesn't have to be a situation where gospel artists cannot make a living from this. It is only that way because we in the church, if you want to call it that, have a mindset that is really damaging the whole culture and the power that God can move through music to impact people. A lot of people still think that the only way the message of the kingdom could be preached is when a man get on a pulpit and he spends an hour to preach a message. And that guy, because he spent an hour on a pulpit preaching a message, probably from most of the time, some guys may say, the Lord gave me this message this morning. He deserves compensation, and they would give and all that sort of stuff. But when coming to gospel music or Christian music, the music side of things, they don't realize that the same sermon that he's compacted in an hour, we have to compact in 5 minutes or less. And we are nurturing and investing all the time into that. And the power and the longevity of the music is sometimes greater or equal to what they are doing. And until the church realize that the persons who are called in this ministry need to be supported in the same way. If you see them with albums, go and purchase the album. A lot of our Christians do not buy or purchase anything to support anyone. That is really the problem in the gospel industry. A lot of people don't support it because they say, well, Jesus Christ gave you that gift for free, so you should give it for free, right? And they don't realize the investment that is in there, the power behind how God can use that artist or that music to impact the world, to impact the nation. And when we grasp that, is when we would say, you know, look, this is something that I should invest in because this is the gospel. This is someone who's representing Christ, who is doing something that I cannot do, who is a missionary in their own right, a missionary, a music missionary, taking the gospel to people who will normally come to church, who will normally listen to gospel music.
So we hear you guys talking about finances. We had our very own Born for Business interview Andrew Thornhill from Steinhill Studios. We're going to take a look here and see what he had to say about the finances and music.
Welcome everyone to Born for Business, the show that gives you all information concerning business and entrepreneurship. I am your host, Akeem Bourne, and today we have in the studio with us none other than Andrew Drilla Thornhill. Guys, this gentleman has been making waves in the music industry, primarily as a song producer, and today you're going to hear from him and his journey, but from a business perspective. Thank you for coming in the studio with us.
Thank you for having me, Akeem.
Okay, all right, Andrew, so tell us a little bit about you. You know, what you do exactly and how you've been able to have success.
Well, as you said, my name is Drilla. That's my production name. I own and run Steinhill Studios. Okay. Right. As a music producer, I meet with the artists, hear their ideas of the song, hear their vision, and see where they want to go with the song. And then my job is to take that song from beginning to end.
Okay, good. Very good. All right, Andrew. Well, let's get into the figures. Let's talk some dollars and cents right here now. You know, show us exactly, you know, what the process is from the beginning to the end. Is it true that you can really make money here in Barbados in the music industry?
Yes, you can. You can. But then it's a very expensive process for the artist, right? So the breakdown of the creation of a song, there's pre-production, right? That's when you meet the artist, you understand where the artist is going, you try to find the best way to take their vision to the next step, which is the production process now. This is when the music making of the song starts to happen, right? So then the production process you could start with a price range of like $2,000, right? And then that involves hiring musicians, if that be the case. So we're talking about 4, probably 5 musicians who also have a cost attached to their duties, which could be about $150 per musician, right? And then they're going into the studio to record. So that the studio has an hourly fee, right? So you're looking at, let's say, another $400 because it's like $100 an hour. So we haven't even started to record as yet, any vocals, right? So then we're looking at the actual production process now when the artist comes into the studio and they're singing everything that you hear the artist sings, that takes place in a period of time. So you're working with the engineer who may or may not be the producer, right? And you're spending another probably 4 hours or so. They're singing, and then we're looking at backing vocalists who also have to be paid. Wow. You're paying backing vocalists, and the backing vocalists, they're also spending time in the studio. So we're looking at another 4 hours or so in the studio, and this is at $100 per hour. Right? So then when all that is finished, we're moving on to the mixing process, which is post-production. The mixing process where you're blending everything that has been recorded, whether it be the instruments, the vocalists, the backing vocalists, all that stuff. And that price can go between, let's say, $250 to $500. That process could be a long process because you're editing everything. That's probably about 16 hours of work or so. And after that, there's the end process of mastering that could run between another $250 to $500 for the project. So you're looking at you're spending money all along the way.
Yeah, indeed, because I would have heard that it takes about $15,000 to $20,000 to produce one track. I loved how you broke it down just now, because that brings clarity to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's answer let's continue. Let's get some more questions. How big is the disparity between working with a gospel artist in comparison to a secular artist?
Yeah, the disparity, I must say, it is huge. Wow. It is huge. Right, because we're looking at the source of funds, and a gospel artist now, where does a gospel artist generate money? Because as a gospel artist, you're most likely a minister as well, right? So you're not out there charging for everything. I'm sure there are shows that you're doing for free, plenty of shows, because most shows are either $5, $10 admission, probably $40 the most for admission. So for a promoter can't really pay an artist more than probably $200 to sing. So when you look at it that way, an artist can't really generate enough money to spend $20,000 on a track easily.
Okay, so who do you primarily work with? Do you work primarily with gospel artists, or do you work primarily with the secular artists?
Yeah, I work primarily with gospel artists.
Okay, so how have you been able to, have a successful studio? How have you been able to generate money all this time?
Well, outside of making music, I do corporate work. Okay. So let's say, for example, a company needs an ad, right? They come to the studio and you get the ad recorded, get music made for it and stuff like that, right? So it works pretty much like that. And then when you call, the call prompts that you hear, all that is done in the studio. So that sort of stuff, along with diversification, because I have other businesses as well. I'm into distribution, I'm a personal trainer, also a graphic designer, so I find different ways to get revenue coming in.
Okay, come on, that's very, very good. Okay, well, let's continue. Mr. Thornhill, I know you've been a Christian for almost your entire life. What kingdom principles did you implement in your businesses, obviously to contribute to the success that you would have had?
Well, of course, probably one of the most important ones is seasons, and acknowledging seasons, realizing and acknowledging seasons, because there's a different time for everything, right? So sometimes there's a little lull in music, so you move on from the music, right? You move on from the music and spend more time in something, right? And moving at the correct time is crucial.
Timing is key. Timing is key.
Yeah. And then as it relates particularly to the studio in itself, I do a lot of giving, because as I would have broken down the figures for you, right? I know, even I used to be an artist, right? I used to be an artist, so I know that most artists and what they can or can't afford from being a gospel artist, right? So I work with the artists and sewing back into their ministry by reducing a lot of the cost for them. So I work with them and look and see where they can be better prepared, so they spend less time in the studio, no time is being wasted. Right?
All right, Mr. Thornhill, I want to thank you for taking the time out to come and sit with us here in the studio. It was a great pleasure to have you here. Guys, thank you for watching. It has been another episode of Born for Business.
Grab somebody and tell them hello. Your happiness will be connect to flow. Smile and cheer because it's we flow. Grab somebody and tell them hello. With your hands in the air, hands in the air, hands in the air, hands in the air. This is how we flow. Yeah. Grab somebody and tell them. And this is how we flow. Your happiness will be connect to flow.
I wanted to touch a little bit and be really candid here, and give my honest opinion. When it comes to being a viewer, a listener to gospel music, a purchaser, potential purchaser, usually I'm like, you know what? This is a cute song. The album launch is like $40 admission, $35, $25. I've seen these guys perform before. I've gone to the concerts before. Why should I do it again? It's just going to be the same music, just one new thing. And sometimes that is what deters me from going out and probably witnessing another concert with the same artists performing their songs again. So for me, there is a challenge there. I understand from you guys explaining, especially your frustrations pertaining to the cost of making this thing, to then have to sell. You guys should be selling it for like $1,500. I mean, they definitely could not afford it. But for just 99 cents, and people are just like, I really still don't want to get it for 99 cents. I can understand, know a little bit more how, as a listener and as a potential purchaser, what my 99 cents, what my $1.25, what my $5, what my $10 to buy an album could really be invested into. And I really appreciate that perspective, guys. Like, you guys converted me. I am now delivered. But we're going over to you, Jaicko, so you wanted to jump in.
Yeah, and which is funny because what you're saying actually lends a lot to what I was going to say. In the fact that, you know, there's a major struggle with local artists. I think that one of the biggest struggles is that we feel as though we're not supported by our own. Like if, for instance, Israel Houghton was to come down here and have a major concert, everyone would be, Israel! You know, but if Gozzy was to have a concert, or Shane, if we were to have a concert, the enthusiasm from our people towards that would be different. But I think there's two sides that lend to that. Us as artists, we're now slowly coming out of a season where we have been very lackadaisical about our art, especially in gospel or in Christian music. I feel like a lot of times the perspective is, okay, well, it's unto God, so it's whatever. God, you know, God understands if it's not mixed right, if it's not mastered right. But you know, we're at a place now in the world now where people know what good stuff sounds like. You know, people know when something is mastered. You know, I could even go as far as frequencies. You know, our ears have adapted to certain frequencies of when something is great quality. For instance, if your song is muffled, you know, you would automatically be able to tell the difference whether or not it's been mastered correctly or whether it's just not good quality. So I think, you know, for someone like you who is not as motivated to buy something from here, because, you know, we're, like I said, we're now coming out of a culture where we haven't really taken the time to consider the cost that we need to invest in our product in order for it to be sellable, you know, because at the end of the day, as Shane said, I think we pretty much established that it is very much a business as much as it is a gift.
I would jump in there and say, Jaicko, I do agree with you, because there is an accountability on our part, and in terms of ensuring that the quality is that of the market we are trying to reach. Because in the same way, you don't have a crusade today. Well, I would suggest it that you go on with the bullhorn, because automatically people's ears are not tuned into that. They're accustomed to a particular quality. But I will argue, though, that sometimes the reason for the lack of quality is the finances, is that this is all you can afford. I would really like to see the day where, especially where people see a gift and a talent in a lot of the local artists, a lot of the artists who have that potential, that the church invests in them. Because in the same way, I've seen it happen so much, where you have people in the church who have a great talent, marvelous, they may be worship leaders or in the choir they're leading, and the church does not invest in them. It takes someone who would come from out of the world and who would say, look, I'm going to invest in you, but you have to end up singing what I want you to sing. You have to go to the market that I want to take you. And that's why we see so many great singers right now on the secular scene who started in church, who are worship leaders, pastors' children, whatever, gifted and anointed in that. But because we've lost the vision of how God could use them to impact the world, we allow the enemy to come into our church and to sell them something that we should have been given them if we had the same vision that God had for their lives.
Now I have to ask, have you ever been presented with an opportunity like what Gozzy described, where, you know, somebody has come from the secular world and offered you a really good opportunity and said, Shane, you know, I really want to invest in you. You're an incredible artist. I see your talent. I see your potential, but you need to change up some of your content. It's a little too spiritual.
Spiritual.
So I'm gonna reach what I'm, you know.
Sure. That's as long as you're exposed, you will get that. I've had one person tell me, you know, your music videos, I like them, but you need to stop, you know, doing that, you know, this Jesus thing. You need to, like, you know, tone it down a bit. It happens. You know what I mean? As long as you're in the industry, you're exposing yourself, it happens. And that's where the integrity of what you're doing and the metal of who you are is tested. On your motivation for doing what you're doing. My motive for doing it is because I love the Lord, and I want to make sure that whatever I do represents Him. So I cannot be bought, regardless. You could offer me $10 billion, I'm not going to do it because that's just not my motivation. So
wow.
Yeah,
definitely, me too. I can think of countless times where I've been asked to conform or compromise my sense of relationship with the Lord. I remember one specifically. They proposed that I write a song for a homosexual TV show, and I had to be strong on my views against it, and in terms of my management, because a lot of people that I work with are as well, they aren't believers as well. So for me, I always have to be stern in not compromising my faith in terms of where I go, what I do, who you work with, So I think a big key in that is discernment, and really trusting God and to, allow Him to put you in situations that may have you proclaim Jesus as well. So it's definitely countless. I could think of countless times where I've been in situations like that.
So when we're talking about risk, what I mean is going too far. I know as artists, you have creative license and you want to create, you want to experiment, but is there too far in going in your art? So basically the example we can give, which was very recent, was Andaminio's current Instagram post. And Dani will actually read it out for you guys so you can...
Okay, let me just pull my mystery phone out from under the pillow. But yeah, basically this was last month. Andy Mineo, he would have had a Twitter rant about the use of profanity in your song as a Christian artist. Now we know Andy Mineo doesn't consider himself a gospel artist. He's a Christian who raps. But of course, you're a Christian. So basically what he would have said was, do you guys really think if a person uses profanity, words we've given meaning, in their music, that they couldn't possibly be Christian? Why?
For me, I think he is taking too much of a risk. I personally wouldn't do that. The Bible talks about how hard the tongue is to tame. And we all understand that when Jesus spoke in parables, he spoke so that they could understand. And profanity is something not of light. Anytime someone uses profanity, it's not of light. And if it is coming out of you, is it something that Christ would say? And that is something that I think you would have gone too far over the line with, because to use profanity is the same thing to do what other people will normally do. Other people who do not have the light within them, that is how they communicate. You have to teach them the right way in communicating. I've seen a whole set of other things that artists would have done in terms of their music videos and what they use just to create. Sometimes all this is sometimes just publicity. And what people have to realize that some of these artists also have publicity stunts that they do to get the music more popular. And if that is the case, I don't know if that's the case with Andrew Drilla or not, but to me, I don't really like it. I don't think it is something that I would have done personally, or I don't want to advise anyone to do that.
So it sounds to me like he's trying to cross over a bit too far. Is there any danger in that as an artist, as a Christian? What is the danger in going down that path?
I think the danger is that we know, the fallen world that we live in. There is a false Christianity that exists, and when we look at the media, and when I've seen a few of the guy Andy Mineo stuff, and it does have a certain contrast to it, and with my discernment, I think that I've always been on the fence about him specifically. I think that there's a false sense of Christianity out there that allows people to be comfortable with the God that they serve, and it doesn't give people the conviction to want to change. So, and that's my personal observation on his view. I think that it is dangerous to be used by that spirit as well, because I don't think that is him. I just think the spirit that he's lending himself to by trying to, conform or trying to stretch that boundary. I think that's when it becomes dangerous as well, because I'm pretty sure that he has a cult following, or a core set of fans that hold on to his word and that believe that he loves Jesus, and they would take that and be, okay, well, I guess then it's okay to use profanity. I guess it is of God, So I think there is a very dangerous situation, definitely.
To add to what Jaicko is saying, let's get biblical first for a few seconds, because the thing is about it, the Bible says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, right? I would question what's in your heart if you think you need to use profanity to express. The Bible also says, put away all filthy language from your mouth. The Bible also says, let him that speaks as though he's speaking the very oracles of God. So I would ask him, do you see Jesus saying that? Do you see Jesus expressing himself like that to be cool? Because there's a Christianity that promotes this sense of wanting to be cool to the world. But you become so cool, you become carnal, right? And you begin to become, and you don't even realizing that you're becoming just like the world. And you're just getting all tangled up into this wanting to be cool and accepted, wanting to be, but at the end of the day, there's a cross that you must bear. We're called to live holy lives, and no one could convince me that putting a curse word to express yourself is holiness. We must live holy, and that's the key, and that's the thing.
It's all about reproduction too, because if you're going to reach someone with whatever message or however your music is, what is it that you want to reproduce in them? Because you're called to make disciples.
Yes.
So if I'm saying that, it's all right to sing profanity and say profanity, is that something that I want to reproduce in the people listening to the music? Is that something that I want to reproduce in my children? Is that something that I want to reproduce all across society? Because God is looking at your fruit. And what you're looking to as an artist is that I not just want to reach you in my music just to be accepted. I want to impact your life and reproduce the Christ in me in your life. Allow God to reach you so that you can have the same light that I have and reproduce that light in your life to others.
To add to that, I would like to say that if we're going to talk about giving words meaning, we're going to eventually have a situation where there's compromise, because we're talking about nothing is absolutely right, nothing is absolutely wrong. It's up to my interpretation. God doesn't work that way. There's an absolute truth and there's wrong. There's not even a gray area. Is right or wrong. And what comes out of our mouth has meaning, and we know for centuries that the F word remains the F word, right? And it remains profanity. Don't try to change that to justify some position you may have. You think that it's art, or you think that you're trying to formulate some new way of thinking. It's wrong. Profanity is wrong. Let's call it what it is, and full stop. Don't try to confuse people with that.
Whoa, this conversation is so awesome, you guys. We have been here on Dishing It with Dani, dishing it about the crossover of none other than Gozzy, Jaicko, and Shane Forrester. You guys, thank you so much for sharing your wealth of just knowledge and information and ideas about this stuff. You guys, I know my mind has been changed. I know Dani
definitely brought a different perspective to what I was coming into the conversation thinking.
Certainly, you guys, and I totally appreciate that. We love having you here on the show, you guys. Thank you so much for coming out.
Buy our music.
Buy the music. Ladies and gentlemen, when we get back, we're going to have a live in-studio performance by none other than Jaicko Lawrence and Shane Forrester.
Wow.
You won't want to miss this.
Grab somebody and tell them hello. Pure happiness when we connect to flow. Smile and cheer because it's we flow. Grab somebody and tell them hello. With your hands in the air, hands in the air, hands in the air, hands in the air. This is how we flow. Yeah. Grab somebody and tell them this is how we flow. Pure happiness when we connect to flow.
That's just a lie. God says you're worth more than anything this world could offer. So regardless of what others may say about you, it really don't matter, 'cause Jesus thinks you're worth dying for. Jesus thinks you're worth dying for. And regardless of what others may say about you, it really don't matter, 'cause Jesus thinks you're worth dying for. Jesus thinks you're worth dying for. So this one goes out to all the people in the world feeling all alone, feeling like nobody cares, feeling like your burdens are too great to bear. I want to let you know Jesus loves you. That is not a cliche. His love can set you free today. So listen up. The cross was never meant to magnify your flaws, but it was meant to take them away, to reveal how much you're worth to him. He's not waiting for you to change to love you. He wants to love you so he can change you. I can hear his voice today, it's calling. It doesn't matter what nobody else is saying, no. Don't be dismayed when they say you're no good. When they say you are no good. When they say you're no good. That's just a lie. God says you're worth more than anything this world could offer. So regardless of what others may say about you, it really don't matter, 'cause Jesus thinks you're worth dying for. Jesus thinks you're worth dying for. And regardless of what others may say about you, it really don't matter, 'cause Jesus thinks you're worth dying for. Jesus thinks you're worth dying for. Take it away, Jaicko. Jesus thinks you're worth dying for. Yeah. So much so that he gave his life so you can have it more. Yeah. So take it all. He'll give it all if you take it all. It's a gift, so you just gotta take it. No. Come on, Gozzy, sing me something now.
Nothing can separate us from the love of God. The love of God. I say that nothing can separate us from the love of God. No. Of God. Not my past or my faults, my history, anything that I've done. No. 'Cause nothing can separate us from the love of God. The love of God.
So yeah. Don't be dismayed.
Don't be dismayed.
When they say you're no good.
When they
Don't be
say
dismayed. When they say you're no good.
No.
Oh, 'cause that's just a lie. God says you're worth more than anything this world could offer. So regardless of what others may think about you, it really don't matter, 'cause Jesus thinks you're worth dying for. Jesus thinks you're worth dying for. And regardless of what others may say about you, it really don't matter, 'cause Jesus thinks you're worth dying for. Jesus thinks you're worth dying for.
Boom.
All right, guys, and that was a live performance by Jaicko Lawrence, Shane Forrester, and Gozzy right here in the Dishing It with Dani studio. I enjoyed it. I don't know about you. I was jamming along. I had a great time.
I loved it. It was amazing.
Yes, we are going to buy the track.
We're going to buy the
We're
track.
Going to support our artists.
Support our artists.
Yeah, we heard a lot today about gospel music and the crossover, and it was all a very engaging and exciting conversation. There's so much. I hope you caught it all. But that's all we have time for today.
But tune in next week for something that may be a little social injustice-y, maybe.
Yes, we're talking about matters of social injustice next time, and that could be a little, that could be a little. Only you will know when you tune in next time on Dishing It with Dani.
That's right.
Thanks for watching.
Bye, guys.